Catherine, can we get a check of your audio? Catherine, we do not hear you. Could you get an audio check for us, please?
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
And do you see the slides up?
We sure do.
Okay, great. All right.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining today's webinar. I am proud to welcome Catherine Curry from the Department of Interior for our next presentation on the bipartisan infrastructure law. Catherine Curry rejoins the Interior Department as Deputy Coordinator for the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. A graduate of Yale University and the Yale School of Management, she previously served as Deputy Staff Director to the Steering Committee in the U.S. Senate and as Policy Staff to the Secretary of Interior in Washington, D.C. Ms. Curry also spent time in Anchorage, Alaska, advancing political, legislative, and environmental initiatives through work in the Alaska State Legislature and political campaigns. Thanks so much for speaking with us today. Over to you.
Yes, thanks for the opportunity to talk today about the bipartisan infrastructure law and the Inflation Reduction Act. I have my slides up, I believe. As Sydney said, I am the Deputy Infrastructure Coordinator at the Department of the Interior. We are very fortunate at the department to receive around $30 billion in infrastructure investments across our bureaus and offices dedicated to cleaning up legacy pollution, restoring critical habitats, addressing the drought crisis, assisting with wildland fire management, and helping communities prepare for extreme weather events. You can see on the slide that the vast majority of almost half of the bipartisan infrastructure law funding is going to our legacy pollution programs. That's for the abandoned coal mine reclamation and the oil and gas orphan well site plugging remediation and restoration. Since those are not particularly dominant industries in Oregon, I'm not going to spend much time talking about them. I'm going to focus more on the ecosystem restoration and Klamath investments, fire preparedness, and our water infrastructure today. So at the Department of the Interior, we've coordinated, or we have our funding split into 8 different program areas that you can see here, and about 40 different programs. There's a lot of funding for Western water, for which Oregon is one of the 17 Western states eligible. The Indian water rights settlements, ecosystem restoration efforts, which span a number of different programs, are the orphan wells and abandoned mine lands, the 2 legacy pollution programs I mentioned that are less relevant to Oregon, wildland fire, our U.S. Geological Survey, science, mapping resources, and research facilities, our Fish and Wildlife Service restoration programs, including the Klamath Basin and Sagebrush Steppe area, and then tribal infrastructure that contributes to climate resilience and adaptation planning, community relocation, and power, water, and irrigation systems. These funds are going to be deployed across all 50 states and the U.S. territories over the span of several years. You'll notice in these investments that we're focusing on achieving a number of policy priorities as well, including investing in communities to promote equity, working with grant recipients and state partners to ensure that all of our investments help communities create good paying jobs, promoting American companies to ensure that infrastructure dollars have a multiplicative effect supporting the U.S. economy. We're also using these bill funds to make communities more resilient to the destructive impacts of climate change, but we can't achieve these historic goals all on our own. The Department of the Interior is proud to work in close coordination with states like Oregon, with our tribal partners to preserve our country's natural spaces. And all of our decisions are guided by the best available evidence. I'm gonna talk a little bit more about what we have done in Oregon, but this is a sort of a cheat sheet on it. But I wanted to move on first to our fire investments. You may know that this past weekend, the Secretary of the Interior, Deb Haaland, was in Oregon with Senator Merkley and local elected officials. In Medford, she met with local wildland fire preparedness and response officials, including from the Interior Department's Bureau of Land Management, to receive a briefing on the state's fire outlook and discuss ongoing wildfire efforts. Secretary Haaland announced that the department is investing more than $21 million from the bipartisan infrastructure law this year for wildfire risk reduction efforts in Oregon, including fuel management work on over 170,000 acres. The reality is that these days fire seasons last for most of the year, and we have fire years more than fire seasons anymore. Oregon unfortunately knows this all too well, so with little room for error, we must remain steadfast in our commitment to wildland fire preparedness, mitigation, and resilience. This $21 million will go towards specific mediation and response efforts, including helping local communities across the country acquire slip-on tank units and expand remote sensing for wildfire detection, and as well as increase federal and tribal firefighter pay, improve housing options, and expand the current number of permanent firefighters. Ultimately, the goal of these funds is to help put Oregon fire protection programs on proactive footing. We want to not only manage fires as they happen, but we're very interested in preventing fires from taking hold in the first place. Senator Wyden's office received a question on the rural La Pine Fire District in Oregon. The fire district covers 110 square miles and your ambulance service area is 900 plus square miles. The question was about needing capital funding to purchase 2 fire engines at $600,000, 1 tanker at $400,000, and expand 2 fire stations to add more space for trucks and new dorms at $1.5 million per state station. And the question was about what funding sources are available in the next 2 years. I did a quick review with our team, and they shared that the DOI Rural Fire Readiness Program allows transfers of used equipment. It's available department-wide, but BLM is the biggest user, and I have the link in here that I believe you'll have access to. There's the Community Wildfire Defense Grants from USDA and the Forest Service. They certainly can speak to this better than I can, but wanted to share it as a potential option. There's also the Volunteer Fire Assistance and the State Fire Assistance that are funded through the Forest Service via states that might cover new equipment, and FEMA may have some opportunities as well. Although looking at this list, the engines and facilities were not on there. But there certainly defer to the other agencies on their available funding, but wanted to share what our team came up with. Since December, the department has announced $278 million across the country for wildland fire management efforts this year. So we are working hard at getting that funding out to the people who need it. Just going to move on to Klamath now. As many of you probably know, over the past 20 years, the Klamath Basin has met unprecedented challenges due to ongoing drought conditions, limited water supply, and diverse needs. As drought conditions persist throughout the region, the Klamath Basin's fragile ecosystem will depend on collaborative partnerships among a wide variety of stakeholders in the development of holistic solutions. The bipartisan infrastructure law makes a $1.4 billion down payment in the conservation and stewardship of America's public lands that will lead to better outdoor spaces and habitats for people and wildlife for generations to come, with the Klamath Basin set to receive $162 million over the next 5 years to restore the regional ecosystem and repair local economies. Building on months of close collaboration and engagement with Klamath Basin stakeholders, tribes, and federal, state, and local leaders, the Department of the Interior announced last summer that nearly $26 million from President Biden's bipartisan infrastructure law has been allocated for the Klamath Basin restoration projects, including nearly $16 million for ecosystem restoration in the basin and $10 million to expand the Klamath Falls National Fish Hatchery, which will increase rearing capacity and help prevent the extinction of 2 federally listed species endemic to the Klamath Basin. This past weekend, Secretary Haaland joined Senator Merkley to visit the hatchery. Further investment of bill funding is expected in fiscal year 23 and 24 to complete the construction, with an estimated total Department of Interior bipartisan infrastructure law allocation of approximately $30 million over 3 years. Our research shows that once the hatchery has been expanded to its current target capacity, will be capable of releasing tens of thousands of adult specimens back into their natural environment every year. This is a remarkable accomplishment for a species that was listed as endangered 35 years ago. We are proud to support this project, which was championed by the congressional delegation. In February, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service announced it is seeking pre-proposals for projects supported by up to $15 million from President Biden's bipartisan infrastructure law for ecosystem restoration activities that address high-priority Klamath Basin challenges in Southern Oregon and Northern California. Tribes, local and state agencies, non-governmental organizations, small businesses, private landowners, and other conservation partners are highly encouraged to take advantage of the funding opportunity. This comes after the $16 million under the bill that was to fund 32 ecosystem restoration projects in the Klamath Basin. The second round of funding will continue to support programs and projects to restore habitat, control invasive species, conserve at-risk and listed species, improve habitat connectivity for aquatic species, address water quality and quantity issues, and support projects that will help improve conditions for native species. This funding is intended for projects and activities that will help improve rivers, lakes, wetlands, and their associated riparian habitats with historically supported millions of fish and water birds. Based on stakeholder and community feedback to simplify the application process this year, we invite applicants to submit pre-proposals that describe how your projects advance the restoration of the Klamath Basin. All pre-proposals should align with the conservation goals and objectives outlined in the strategic plans for the Klamath Basin, which are linked here, including the newly finalized Klamath Basin Integrated Fisheries Restoration and Monitoring Plan. Applicants whose pre-proposals are highly ranked will be asked to submit a full project proposal. And this initial step allows the service, the Fish and Wildlife Service, and other federal and state agency partners to work closely together and ensure that best projects move forward for further consideration. Those projects are due April 14th. Those pre-proposals are due April 14th. Moving on to the America the Beautiful Challenge. Last April, the Biden-Harris administration launched a $1 billion America the Beautiful Challenge that will leverage federal conservation and restoration investments with private and philanthropic contributions to accelerate land, water, and wildlife conservation efforts across the country. The America the Beautiful Challenge is administered by NIFWF, the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, to support locally led ecosystem restoration projects that invest in watershed restoration, resilience, equitable access, workforce development, corridors and connectivity, and collaborative conservation consistent with the America the Beautiful initiative. In the program's first year, Oregon projects received $11 million. That's their White Ranch tidal wetland restoration, the Walla Walla Lake Dam rehabilitation, and the Klamath-Siskiyou Oak Network Upper Rogue Oak Initiative. For FY23, the America the Beautiful Challenge vision is to streamline grant funding opportunities similar to the Klamath ecosystem So they are asking for pre-proposals that are due April 20th. These in year two, there's approximately $116 million that's available and will be awarded nationwide to conserve, connect, and restore the lands, waters, and wildlife upon which we all depend. You can see in the slide the themes that are relevant. Collectively, these themes invite applicants to develop landscape level proposals that address conservation and public access needs with cumulative benefits to fish and wildlife, enhanced carbon sequestration and storage, benefits to and engagement with underserved communities, and protection of ecosystems through resilience, focused, and nature-based solutions. This is open until April 20th for pre-proposals. After review, selected proposals will be invited to submit a full proposal by July 20th. Drought is also has been ravaging the West for some time now. We were proud to support the Umatilla project with canal relining for $60,000. It's in the north central Oregon, just south of the Columbia River. Pendleton, Oregon is located 6 miles north of the McKay Dam and Reservoir, the southeastern corner of the project. Cold Springs Dam is located a few miles east of Hermiston. The West Extension Irrigation District protrudes from the central area of the project parallel to the Columbia River, and the project contains 3 diversion dams, 3 Miles Fall, the Feed Canal, and the Maxwell Diversion Dam. And those are the major carriage facilities of the project. It provides for irrigation, recreation, fish, wildlife, and reduces flood damage. We also have our Water Smart program. There was a number of funding that was dedicated in the first year of the bill, the bipartisan infrastructure law funding, over $1 million for drought resiliency projects to increase efficiency and improve water supply reliability. This includes or that we also have $700,000 for the Bear Creek fish passage barriers removal, over $250,000 for the Sixes riverbank restoration and estuary enhancement, $100,000 to convert 1,000 feet of open canal to pipe, which will eliminate subterranean seepage, water loss in charging the ditch, and evapotranspiration. There's $70,000 to install 3 automatic supervisory control and data acquisition controlled gates. The solar powered gates will provide continual monitoring capabilities and adjustment of flow rates to decrease daily water consumption. There's over $280,000 to the Arnold Irrigation District located in Bend, Oregon to modernize the Deschutes River main head gate to automate the existing radial gate to improve the diversion flow measurement. What you can be looking forward to this year is a new opportunity that just opened last week. There's $30 million available under the Water Smart grants for aquatic ecosystem opportunities. This funding will support the study, design, and construction of collaboratively developed ecosystem restoration projects that provide widespread regional benefits and improve the health of fisheries, wildlife, and aquatic habitat through restoration and improved fish passage. You can find that opportunity on grants.gov. There's a little bit more information here about that projects are eligible between $500,000 and $2 million, and the construction projects between $3 and $20 million. There is a non-federal cost share that's required, as well as applicants in 2 distinct categories. One, category A is listed at the bottom there, and category B are nonprofit conservation organizations acting in partnership with category A. So I wanted to alert this group to the industry day that we are hosting. This is the third small business industry day. It is both virtual and in person. It's hosted by our Office of Small Disadvantaged Business Units, but all are welcome to participate. There's been both a focus on grant opportunity or procurement opportunities, but in addition to that, in our grant and financial assistance programs to states, for example, which a lot of our funding is running through, that it's not just connecting small businesses with federal procurement opportunities, but really trying to share more information about, where this incredible funding investments are going, even if there's a financial assistance recipient like a state that is actually receiving the money and will be doing the contracting. So we're just trying to provide as much visibility and understanding of those opportunities as possible. And finally, I've got some resources here. These are the government-wide resources, but the Department of the Interior information would be included in each of them. So that is the end of my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Hey, everyone. Hey, thank you so much. Would you prefer to take questions now or work with us afterwards to get questions back to constituents?
That would definitely be probably more productive because I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of details that I will not have.
Yeah, so I think that is the course of action here. So thank you so much for that presentation and useful information. We'll work to get relevant information uploaded on our website and this kind of information distributed to you all. But yes, please, for those that have questions, please put them in the Q&A chat box, and we are committed to working with DOI to get you those answers. We want to be as helpful as possible. We do have a break right now. We'll put up a slide with the kind of agenda at in about 30 minutes. We have a presentation from the Army Corps of Engineers. So I will be back on then with a brief introduction and we can kick it off then. So thank you so much for this useful information. And thanks to all the attendees for listening.
Thanks for the opportunity.